It is saying I'm live. Anybody out there? Anybody reading me yet? All right, folks. Um, let's see. Hello, tribe. Michael Boswell says, "What up, Jamie?" says Jorge. All right. Oh boy, the usual suspects are in already. Ben Scheidegger, I think is how you pronounce your last name. I'm getting better, Ben. Been up since 4 a.m. Central Time. Very tired, trying to stay awake. We'll try and make it worth your while tonight, Ben, for sure. Let's see. Jamie, hey, Jorge. And of course, Jorge responded to Jamie. And a good evening from Jamie as well. Uh, Kimberly's telling you I will come up shortly. The reason I was a few minutes late tonight, folks, is I had to correlate what notes I had for this stream. They were in a slipshod fashion, and I didn't. I wasn't necessarily going to do this stream tonight. All right, let's see if we can kind of straighten things out here a little bit. There we go. Um, and this was going to be the stream I was going to do Sunday. And by the way, Royce, I saw your comment. Thanks for the thumbs up, brother. I'd understand if you can't hang with the stream tonight, but check me out later. All right. I know this is a subject near and dear to your heart. We share a lot of the same views on this. I might go a little off script tonight. We'll see how it goes. All right. But, folks, this is the stream you have wanted. This is the stream that you have craved. This is the stream that, frankly, you've paid for. And I do appreciate each and every one of the shout outs that I got, or not shout outs, the super thanks that I got on the last stream. I had promised if I got 3 shout outs that I would do this additional stream tonight. All right. And we got more than 3. And so, like I've said before, folks, I sing for my supper. That's what I've been doing since I was 4 years old. One way or another, I'll sing for my supper. And so I promised you an extra stream, and by damned, an extra stream is exactly what you're going to get tonight. Okay, so let's see. Anybody else I missed? Oh, of course, Storm Cop, first in, man. Boom, let's do this, he says. And of course, Storm Cop, Kimberly told me on the last stream that you had mentioned something that getting back on your feet. Brother, it's just good to have you here. All right. You've been a financial supporter to this channel in the past, but you're going through tough times. I understand that. But that's not the reason there's a connection between you and me and your connection with the tribe. It's what you have to offer in the comments. All right. Plain and freaking simple. So we're just glad that you're safe, first of all. Second of all, that you've gotten some sort of interaction with your insurance. You were worried about that not going your way anytime soon. That certainly seems to, at least the beginnings of it, has happened sooner than you perhaps indicated before, or feared, I should say. So we're just glad to have you in the comments. You're supporting the channel and everything. You're a key member, and like I said last week, you are a permanent tribal chieftain to this channel. All right. Now, when I mentioned tribal chieftain, then we're going to get right into the stream. I'm just John to let folks, kind of dribble in here, folks. A second stream often doesn't do as well, and that's fine because I'm doing what you guys exactly wanted to hear tonight. And I think you're going to be glad for those of you who do show up. We've got a great stream. But when I mentioned tribal chieftains and I mentioned tribal elders, that's the moniker that I give to my members. There are 2 tiers. You can support this channel with a mere $5 a month. You get extra voting power. You get extra um, videos that I do not post to the main channel, right? And you also support this channel. It's my way. I try to give bang for the buck. And of course, you can also choose to go the extra tier. My goodness, we did. I'll get right to you, Ben. Thank you so much. $10 super thanks. I appreciate it so much, brother. And I want to get to your comments here in a minute. Let me just kind of finish up what I'm talking about channel members. So it's a good way to support the channel, and it'll cost you anywhere from an inexpensive cup of coffee to a pretty nice cup of coffee. You know, the second tier is $10 a month, and when you join the second tier, you become a tribal chieftain. All right, and a whole lot is going on there. I've still got to get my part three on the multimedia that series that I'm doing there, and a sharing of the vinyl collection that I've got so far, and what I think about regarding certain albums and what's the best way to listen to them. Okay, so that's what that's all about. If you hear me going tribal chieftain, you'll see these guys with stars. Right now, the most senior members of they'll graduate to a darker hue and wind up being, I think, purple, but right now the senior members, you'll see that gold star. Newer members, you'll see the blue star. The green stars are for those who have been around a while, right? And I often will, if you show up early before the stream starts and I see you're out there, I'll make you a moderator as well. So that's what goes on. That's how I keep the channel going. As I mentioned in my last stream, the channel doesn't make all that much when it comes to commercials, because you're a YouTube partner. And certainly the channel, as of late, we've been talking about this. There's been a lot of complaints of people mentioning they're being unsubscribed to the channel. They're also mentioning they're not getting notified. I noticed one of you said notifications are on. So you got notified tonight. That's great. Kimberly wasn't notified of this stream on both of her devices, and neither was I on the one other account that I have on my iPhone. Now, that may be because it was within an hour. I don't know. But I do know a few of you said you didn't see the last stream's notification. So check your notifications. Make sure that bell is clicked, because sometimes it gets unclicked, as many of you have complained about. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel. All right. A lot of you are complaining that you have been unsubscribed out of the blue for no reason. And it's just what it is. This is what we're dealing with. And you either learn to roll with the punches, folks, or you get trampled, And I'm not one to get trampled on. All right, so I did see that. Let's see if anybody else is coming. Oh, that's right. I wanted to cover Ben Scheidegger. Yeah, am I pronouncing that, Ben? Right? Scheidegger. Yeah, the rock band Coven had a bass player named Oz Osborne and recorded a song in their 1969 debut album named Black Sabbath. I did not know this. Wow. $10 and information? What a what an abundance you are. It looks like we got another one there. I'll get right to you here. Was it all just coincidence or something bigger? Are they also a pioneer? You know what? I'm not aware of them. I'm not aware of Coven. Uh, I said Coven. It's probably Coven. Uh, I do kind of remember a band named Coven from back in the day, but I don't recall ever listening to their music. I mean, I kind of, maybe it's wishful thinking on my part, brother. But Ben, I'll tell you, when I tend to remember little bits and pieces. My wife says that I have one of the most intense trivial minds, and I always do well at Trivial Pursuit. I can't remember anything about treating a carburetor or anything beyond just putting gas into a car, right? But I can tell you what Paul McCartney was thinking on April 5th, 1964. If it was something that came out, it kind of sticks in my brain, right? And so I tend to think that I've heard of them or I saw articles on them and I just never connected with them. but what an amazing story. Jimbo, $5. Thank you so much from New Zealand. Patrick's probably still flying to New Zealand as we speak. Patrick, of course, the guy I do business with from time to time when he runs his auctions. Real trustworthy guy. Love him. He usually does Friday night. What is that called? His stream, his live stream, and he's a good guy. Great set of ears. Sells top quality stuff. I've never had any reason to complain. He is prompt in his response to you. Gets and he's been kind of on and off. I've kind of backed off on the amount of vinyl I've been buying and trying to get the choice records right now because I'm not in. Like I said, I'm not in the vinyl community, but I run with the vinyl community. A lot of my favorite channels are by vinyl community folks, right? So I do have that connection, and I do collect vinyl, but I'm not so much the vinyl community. I'm a musician, I'm a singer songwriter, I'm a ex psych nurse, I'm a martial artist, I'm a graphic designer. I do a lot of things, and I have a wide swath of musical taste, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, and that's how we're going to approach this whole stream, right? So Jimbo says, I'm watching you during the remnants of a tropical storm here in New Zealand. Thanks for keeping me company, brother. You are so welcome. Are we scaring you yet? Heavy metal, right? Ooh, tropical storm. Or is it one of those doable tropical storms? I hope you're safe and everything's going your way. And good luck, of course, to Patrick on his flight out there, and hope maybe he's landed by now. He said earlier today he was in the middle of the Pacific, so maybe he was about halfway over his flight. I don't know when he left, but I know it's a horrendous flight, incredibly long. And so yeah, good luck to you, Patrick. All right, guys. I'll get to hey, Zep Earl Vance is in the audience. How you doing, brother? Oh man, okay, this guy's got a lot to say. Harry's Music Room. Are they the same band? Oh boy, you guys are already talking and everything. We sure did, darling. We got from Richie C, 59, second time tonight, brother. Thank you so much. $5. To me, the Beatles' Helter Skelter was the first metal song. All right, so let's get into that. That's a good place to launch from. All right. So the impetus of this stream for me was I saw a YouTube video that was quoting Eric Clapton from two different interviews. One was 1991, and the other one was the second interview. They chose the latter interview, 1991, and an interview in 1986. Okay, let me get my both sets of notes up here real quick. Oh, I see. Okay, good, good. We're good. All right. So, and any what's that, darling? He says the Beatles' "Helter Skelter" was the first metal right. Song. I just went off on that one, and that kind of reminded me how to launch into this. All right. So they were asking Eric Clapton about heavy metal and when it started, right? And Eric Clapton told them, he said, quote, I think it was he was talking about Cream. Okay. His, what he had to offer is he said that heavy metal probably started with Cream, at least partially started with Cream. He says, I think it was one of the early heavy metal bands, probably without knowing it. Clapton said, referring to his former band Cream. When we disbanded Cream and they weren't around anymore, Led Zeppelin filled the voids that were left behind, right? Then he said, regarding Led Zeppelin, he said they were the first kind of official heavy metal band. So maybe Cream was the forerunner of the lot. Now, let's see. He goes on in terms of what is played. Make a lot of noise. Okay, so that's the second part of the video. I'll get to that set of notes in a second here. All right, so here's the deal. He didn't even mention Black Sabbath, all right? Not once in this interview. It was like they didn't exist as a heavy, what he considered to be heavy metal. All right, so when you think about that, and he gives credit to Led Zeppelin. And this has been a debate that we've discussed several times on Royce's channel and here on my channel. That there is a kind of an argument that Led Zeppelin could be considered one of the early heavy metal bands, except that Led Zeppelin has said many times that they are not heavy metal, vehemently, I might add, and that my personal opinion is they're not heavy metal, but they're as heavy as any metal band at times. But to pigeonhole them into the heavy metal class, I see that, darling. I'll get right to that. Who's that from? Jared H. I'll be right with you, brother. All right. So, in other words, there's what has become heavy metal too. See, where did heavy metal start? All right. A lot of people would say, how about Link Ray, Rumble, that riff, that dark riff, that heavy, saturated, distorted guitar, right? That ominous approach for the time was pretty damn heavy, and it had tons of metal like sounds to the guitar. I mean, it was barbed wire, distorted, electrified guitar, right? So there's that. All right. So what is heavy metal? Did it begin with Link Ray? A lot of people will listen to that piece and go, well, that's pretty barbaric to call that the first heavy metal. Why don't we go back a little bit further? How about Bach? I'll give you an excellent example is the fugue in D minor. Flatted fifths galore, right? Man, that's that that's that piece that goes da 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 da. That piece, right? Sounds pretty damn heavy metal to me. A lot of bands have gone that direction out of heavy metal, right? And if that's true, then wouldn't we include Deep Purple as a heavy metal band? I mean, Bach is all over, and so is Mozart, by the way, all over Deep Purple, and with the especially the addition of John Lord's keyboards. Don't they sound a bit Bachish to you? Right? Back in the day, the top three bands that would tour were Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, and Deep Purple. Anywhere they wanted to play, the other bands got out of the way, right? So would they be heavy metal? If you're going to include them, what about Uriah Heep? They're not the first in the list. You know, according to Clapton, the first in the list is Cream. All right, and then we go on to he says Led Zeppelin, and it's interesting. In the same article, they mentioned that it was, or in the same video, it was Jimmy Page who based his entire Led Zeppelin approach as far as heaviness and everything to a lot of the guitar solos coming from Eric Clapton while he was still with the Yardbirds. And while we're talking about the Yardbirds, aren't they kind of proto heavy metal? All right, before even Black Sabbath. If you're going to include the Yardbirds, what about the Jeff Beck group? Would that be proto heavy metal? And then if you're going to finally talk about Jeff Beck or the Jeff Beck group, then you've got to talk. And of course, this is in response to your wonderful super thanks, the Beatles. Helter Skelter. And I might add, how about freaking Revolution? All right. But Helter Skelter off the White Album, even the slow version off of Anthology sounds damn heavy metal to me. But when they speed it up and the franticness of it, all right. So does it necessarily go to Black Sabbath? All right. Now I want to get to this newest super thanks. Let's see. Jared H. $9. Oh, $10. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. That'll go a long way. Hey, my first message, love the channel. I work in a record store in New York near the Ontario border and was curious what your thoughts are about the bands Max Webster and the Tragically Hip. I know very little about them, brother. I wish I did know more. I've heard of them, but I don't know much about them. Enlighten us in the comments. Let us know. Are these examples of a metal approach? I've heard of the Tragically Hip, of course, but I'm not. Uh,
Oh, you got another one from
did we?
Boswell.
Okay, great. I'll get to you in a second here, Michael. Thank you so much. And I love the fact that it's $2, folks. You know, uh, it's amazing how several $2 can mount up to $10. All right, and it's amazing how that all kind of accumulates. Right, when I look at all of these super thanks, of course the larger ones are nice, but you know what? What keeps gaining in on the list all the time are the small ones, and you see them pepper, and all of a sudden they're all together worth $20 for the evening. All right. So there is power in small super thanks. And he says Zephyr and Tommy Bolin should be thrown in there. Yes, I agree. Tommy Bolin, especially so. All right. And Tommy Bolin's work with Deep Purple. All right. So I'm sorry, Jared, that I haven't, that I'm not really familiar with them. But welcome to the channel. All right. And this is a good example or a good point off of Jared's comment that I can tell you where I come from. I'm a rock fan. All right. In general, I love what I call classic rock and roll. All right. And I like anything from good pop rock to prog rock, psychedelic rock. I love heavy metal, and I love blues based rock. I love acoustic rock, if indeed there can be really acoustic rock. But I love singer songwriter rock. Anything that kind of goes in that. I love some great soul bands, not the big soul aficionado that Royce is by any stretch of the imagination, but the cream of the crop that came out of soul, especially that soul that was coming out during the 60s. Yeah, man, I like that as much as the next guy. But I'm not an expert on any particular subgenre of music. Nothing has caught my attention enough in any one subgenre of music that I go, well, I'm mainly that. Okay. All right. I'll give you an example. My three top bands are the Beatles, number one, number two, Led Zeppelin, number three, Pink Floyd. That covers a lot of ground. Okay. Right there. That covers a whole lot of ground. And then the near misses like Yes. All right. And Metallica is on that list further down, but they are on that list. So I like what has become heavy metal, but I like certain aspects of it. Some of it's just downright crap to my ears. Don't like Cookie Monster vocals. All right. No, no, no. You've lost me already. All right. Don't like hip hop based, rap based heavy metal. Okay. It's just not my thing. So I'm not big on that either. If you are, that's fine. These are just my opinions. And when I give my opinions, folks, then that kind of gets you guys room to disagree with me. This isn't the be all end all when I talk this way. The tribe speaks in the comments, and that's what the greater belief system is on the channel, right? So there are aspects of heavy metal that I thoroughly enjoy, And but I'm not an aficionado. So if you're a metalhead out there, then you've probably got more to say on the subject as a subgenre than I do. However, saying that, I also know there was a time before the term heavy metal came about in a cartoon of all things. Anyway, nobody was referring to Black Sabbath or Led Zeppelin or Cream as heavy metal. Heavy rock, maybe. Acid rock, sometimes, with Cream, maybe, you know, and Jimi Hendrix. We had maybe those kinds of things, maybe some hardcore Black Sabbath fans were calling it something, but in general, nobody was calling it heavy metal. So none of these bands were considered, these are currently the top three heavy metal bands, if indeed Deep Purple are one of those bands, right? Or Uriah Heep or whoever else you want to add in there. But what do you guys think is the beginning of heavy metal? You know, did it start with Black Sabbath? All right. Now, a lot of people will say, well, of course it did. I mean, especially that first album and that very first track. So the band's Black Sabbath, the album's Black Sabbath, and the first track is Black Sabbath. And you have the tritone intro, boom, 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 right? And we've talked about that. Boom is the flatted fifth that we've all come to know and is at least one of the identifying marks of a heavy metal band. Probably most heavy metal bands have more than one song with the dreaded flatted fifth, or AKA the the dreaded devil's note, right? But what about going back to Eric Clapton's claim about Cream, "Sunshine for Your Love"? All right, that first two chords. What is that? D D C D, and then A flat, G D F D. Right? Okay, I think that's how it goes. Right? All right. So that's in the key of D. Well, when it goes from D to C to D, that dan 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 dan, then goes to the A, dan, then to the A flat, dan. There it is, the devil's note, the flatted fifth. So maybe Eric Clapton's got something to say about the beginning of heavy metal. Now, does that not? That doesn't, negate anything that Link Ray accomplished or anything like that. I think you almost have to look at it as proto metal and metal proper almost. And I'm not sure that I'm a big metal proper fan. All right, but there's some leakage in between that I am a fan of. All right. So here we've got Black Sabbath coming out with that, and a lot of people just go, but that's based on what a lot of rock writers would say, or a lot of Rolling Stone articles, giving them finally after decades of credit, giving them their due and everything. Of course, with Ozzy Osbourne getting nominated to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because of his wife. Uh, Inputting her power into that structure, a lot of people are more and more are getting comfortable with that. He's almost become the Elvis of heavy metal, right? Doesn't that kind of, I mean, isn't that what Ozzy Osbourne has become? And I kind of dismissed him, and uh, my interactions with Royce, who's also a good friend. He's not just the other channel. He's not the brother, just the brother channel to this channel. He's a good friend. All right. And him and I have gone back and forth regarding Ozzy Osbourne as a solo artist. I always liked him with Black Sabbath. Wasn't a great fan of him as a solo artist, but I'm rethinking my whole approach on it. And I actually am turning into quite a bit of an Ozzy Osbourne fan belatedly. Okay. And I'll tell you why. Sorry about that. Ran out of air. The reason, that's what I do. I just keep talking until the words won't stop. But the reason I say that is that, first of all, Ozzy Osbourne's a deceptively very good singer. He's got that nasal quality to his voice, so it'd be real easy to dismiss him. But his embracement of melody throughout his solo career is, to me, a whole lot more interesting than Black Sabbath during those same years. All right. And he brought he brought along to his solo career a lot of what he brought to Black Sabbath, which was a sense of melody. Okay, and that's what I think why early Black Sabbath just out. And I'm not talking about isolated tracks. All right, if you're going to bring it, well, Dio, and what about this song? It's the most melodic thing. Okay, there's probably several examples of that. I just didn't care for the Dio Sabbath. I didn't care for Black Sabbath at all once there was no Ozzy. But I didn't care for Ozzy either because he didn't have Black Sabbath. You know, it's a matter of, you can't, don't put your peanut butter, into my chocolate. You can't have one or the other. They got to be together. You got to put the peanut butter and chocolate together. You can't have them separate. But looking back, I'm a lot more impressed with what Ozzy Osbourne offered us. And I think that's what a whole lot of what is missing with the latest Black Sabbath. Now, did I get to the last super thanks here, Kimberly?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Good, good. Wanted to make sure I was all caught up. All right. So, where does it start? Does it start with officially in a proto sort of way with Cream after all? It's too bad, I was talking about earlier that Royce was in the early audience. I would imagine he can't stay for the stream because his great granddaughter is visiting. And he's got another one coming along the way in a few months, he says, right? But you know, it would be interesting on what he would have to say all about this and what is the beginning, because he is a major Cream fan. All right, and I've been a Cream fan, but I like the basic output and everything. Royce, it's like no Cream, the Cream, as Royce likes to call him, the Cream. The cream de la creme to him. So does it start there? All right, I'm going to get over to some of the comments here and see if what you guys have to say about all of this. Okay, Vance, Patrick streams on Sunday. Yes, Tuesday and Friday. Thank you, Vance. I appreciate that. Join us sometimes, tribe. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. All right. Big fan. If I'm not streaming and I'm just down in bed, I'm there, Zep. I'm at all those streams, whether I comment or not. You know, I hit him up all the time. Terry Rovat, Coven had hit 110 Soldier. Is that where I heard it? Was that an alternative? Oh boy, you've given me homework. I'll catch up with that real soon. Right after this, I would probably be looking it up tonight. I took a 45-year-old vinyl KTEL record and converted to CD with no pops and clicks. A KTEL record. Boy, that's going back. Huh? Remember that? KTEL. Lord, right there with I'm not only what was the guy that had sprayed to make your balding go away and all of this, the Vegematic, all of those commercials. Oh, good Lord. Oh man. Let's see now. Who else do we have here? Harry's Music Room. Hello, Kimberly and everyone. And hello back to you, Harry. Welcome. Stephane or Stephanie. I still don't know.
Stephanie.
It's Stephanie. Okay, Stephanie. Very good. Because one's male, one's female. I just want to get the right people.
Oh, Brett Glasgow just gave you a super thanks.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Let me get down to here. I want to get back to you guys here in a second. What about the Welsh band Budgie? Know very little about them. I have heard them. I've listened to them. They're pretty melodic, as I recall. What do you guys think? You know, as heavy metal. And here's another question for you guys. What do you guys think regarding, or what of you that are into heavy metal, are there styles of heavy metal you don't like? Are there approaches that you generally stay with, or are you like, oh, no, man, I'm a metalhead. I can listen to Cookie Monster vocals all day long, man. You don't understand it, right? So yeah, kudos to that. Uh, but yeah, good question, Brett. Very good question. Want to get back up here? See, when that happens, I got to switch down and change gears and everything. Uh, let's see. Dwayne Chamberlain did Steppenwolf's "Born to Be Wild," which introduced the term heavy metal. Get released before the formation of Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, and Deep Purple. When did "Born to Be Wild" come out? Was that 68? I don't recall. It was that 68? Then they beat Led Zeppelin, right? If that was 68, or was it? Couldn't have been earlier, could it? Born to Be Wild. Did that go back? Harry's Music Room, let us know, brother. You know, let me see if Harry's punching in on this. You know, I don't know. I'm going to skip down to some of the latest comments. I'll get back to the earlier comments because, I'm getting so many comments to get through them all is going to be absolutely impossible tonight. You want to get technical. Metal born in 58, Link Ray's Rumble. Okay, very good, Doc. This is Dr. Insomnia. I call him Doc. I call all you doctors Doc. All right. Uh, no offense. It's just, it's quicker, quick. Hey, Doc, how you doing? What's up, Doc? Rumble, loudness made possible by plugging guitar into drive-in speakers, overloading them, distortion. Yes, all of that. Very good point. Ben, this is Ben Scheidegger. Thank you again for your super thanks earlier, Ben. I'm a huge metal fan, but cannot stand neo metal or death metal. I stick to mainly the 80s metal era, Iron Maiden, Dio, Ozzy, of course. I also like industrial metal like Ramstein. Is that how you pronounce the name? Ramstein? I'm not familiar with them. Industrial metal. Now, is that close to what like U2 was doing with what was that one album? It's got to be my favorite album, Achtung Baby. That's got a very industrial sound. Is that anything close to what you're talking about there? That very industrial. I like some of that. That some of that Berlin kind of sound to it. To music. Almost a mechanical sound to it, but still with enough soul to make it interesting to listen to. You can't override too much on it. But that's a good question about Magic Carpet Ride. Devil says Sabbath didn't invent metal out of thin air. Lots of great proto bands, but Black Sabbath is the first true metal band that all others followed in the 1970s. And that's a good point that most people would agree with you, as a post historical outlook that, yeah, looking back, they are that. But during the 70s, I don't recall them being called heavy metal. They were a heavy rock band. Very close. Yeah, Sabbath, man. What's their style, man? Man, they're heavy rock, kick-ass heavy rock, real dark themes, man. You'll love it. That's kind of the way we talked about them, and that became part of probably the identification of what became heavy metal. So, but it's really easy to look back on something and then say this is the way historically it happened, and with hindsight galore to guide your rewriting of history. But at the time I don't recall uh, the term heavy metal ever being used for Black Sabbath in their heyday. When they first came out, they were just another band with a slightly different approach. Yes, there were similarities to approach that Led Zeppelin had, along with Deep Purple, and I always include, along with that, Uriah Heep, you know, which doesn't get enough love, right? And another band that was pretty heavy, but could also wrote with a lot of melody. Uh, to me, any style of music It's got to have a touch of blues, and it's got to have a sense of melody. Then you've got a chance of grabbing my attention. All right. Harmony would be third in line there. I love harmony. Harmony to me, you know what, folks, musically, harmony is like the closest thing. Matter of fact, music is the closest thing to real freaking magic on this planet. And when you hear harmony stacked on, that's an intricate spell, isn't it? And so to me, to weave the perfect spell of a classic rock masterpiece, you got to have some things there. Of course, you can have distortion. Of course, you can add a flatted fifth to add a most almost demonic kind of sense of urgency, right? You want to have that fugue in D minor organ going off, like Deep Purple would. That'd be great, you know. But there should be a first of all a song structure, okay, and that can vary quite a bit. Then you have to have melody, you have to have harmony, and then come the licks. All right, the riffs, the memorable riffs, and everything. And certainly, Tony Iommi, I've said it many times, he is the riff master of heavy rock and I guess metal rock, right? TGR Classic Rocker Corner. Ozzy said that the first Zeppelin album was the game changer for Sabbath members. Okay, well, good. All right. Like I said, when they first came out, especially those first two albums, they weren't unalike, you know. There were darker overtones. There were more, those first two Sabbath albums almost have some progginess to it that maybe Led Zeppelin didn't have, but Led Zeppelin was already figuring out their Celtic connections. And so there were some dividing marks between them. But when they would just do a kick ass song, you can put a Led Zeppelin song right next to a Black Sabbath song and right next to a Deep Purple song. And they sound, yeah, what a set that was, right? When your favorite radio station goes in that order. How about that? Or any order thereof between the three. All right. Let's see. The Rock and Metal Guardian. I agree that Dick Dale is the godfather of metal, but Paganini is the great grandfather of metal. Ah, don't know. I'm not familiar with Paganini. Is this a classic composer? Almost sounds like it may be a classic composer when you're talking about that. And Dick Dale is a god. I agree with that. Over Under Sideways Down is a rad Yardbirds record. Yes. Like I'm saying, if according to what Eric Clapton's saying here, and you've got, you have uh, the bands in order as they are, and he's saying that he thinks Led Zeppelin is the first kind of true metal band, and he just in Ozzy's last album, Patient Number 9, he's on that album. He sounds really good right next to some heavy metal, and of course, Cream was heavy. There is no freaking doubt about that. So maybe he's got a point there. If that Led Zeppelin was the first like true, heavy metal kind of sound, precluding even Black Sabbath, with like what Ozzy just said here with this comment, and you think of it along that way, well, why not? Why not? Michael Chavez, good to see you. Dick Dale is the godfather of speed metal. Surf is metal without distortion. And you know what? I see the connection. I do. I do see the connection. Maybe not as firmly as you do, but I can see where you're going with that. I'm going to have to give that some more thought. You know, Dick Dale and a metal connection. He is a god, though. There's no doubt about it. Dick Dale, oh man, out of the blue, there he is. Oh, amazing. Amazing. Some of my most early records that I got. See, I got a compilation of a Beach Boy album, one of my very first LPs for Christmas, along with a record player about this big, right? And I got a compilation. Jan and Dean was in there. Dick Dale was in there. The Beach Boys was in there. Then I got a Four Seasons, right? And the Tijuana and the Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass. Those were like my three first albums I ever got. And so, yeah, I loved him. I loved him. Thought I was quite the little rocker when I got those albums too. Rob L., the song Magic Carpet Ride by Steppenwolf was released in 1968. Thank you. And definitely metal overtones there, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that's the same year that the Beatles released, wasn't it? Helter Skelter. Yeah. White Album released in 68. So there's two things in 68, 2 full years, or certainly 18 months, right? Before Black Sabbath was on the scene. Play Magic Carpet Ride, Born to Be Wild, Revolution, and Helter Skelter on a playlist. You wouldn't feel like you're too far away from heavy metal. That's for sure. Doc Insomnia. William Burroughs' Soft Machine novel is where the term heavy metal came from. Thank you. I had forgotten that. Way before Steppenwolf. Ben Scheidegger. I'm a huge metal fan, but cannot stand metal, death metal. I stick mainly to the '80s metal era. Okay, I think I covered this. Yes, I did cover this one. See, you go down, you go up, you kind of bump into comments here. Brett Glasso, Metallica covered Bread Fan and Crash Course in Brain Surgery by Budgie. Okay. Uh, Fart Knock Life.
Yeah, that's a name, huh?
That certainly is a name, huh, babe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fart Knock Life. It's a fart. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. That life. Anyway, no, I never went and saw Annie because my uh, oldest daughter begged me to go see it in the city. Good Lord. It was a pretty good play, though, actually. That first run. It's actually a pretty darn good musical play. I enjoyed it. But anyway, Fart Knock Life says there's so many great classical music precedents. Even Geezer Butler cited Holst's Planet as an inspiration for the OG self-titled Black Sabbath riff. All right. And yes, you're absolutely right. We've covered that many times on the channel. Geezer did indeed qualify that particular statement there. He's done that several times, actually. You want to get technical, metal born in 58. Okay, we talked about that. So I'm going to scoot up here where I haven't been before, where no man has gone before. Jared H. Max Webster was like early prog rock in the 70s. Oh, you're answering. Thank you. Glad I happened in on this one, Jared. So he's talking about Max Webster. That's the artist or band I'm not familiar with. I asked him to give us some more information. Max Webster was like early prog rock in the 1970s and have some metal to them. Tragically Hip is an '80s, '90s band, though thought I would share some good Canadian music. All right, and I will do further research on them, Jared. Thank you so much. The band Buffalo out of Australia. I'm not familiar with them, Zep Earl Vance. Uh, have you done any videos on that? Everybody needs to go to Zep Earl's channel too. I'm a subscriber to him. He's been on when he can. He's usually busy on Patrick's stream, so he doesn't get over to Royce's very often. But when he can, he's up there, and he is so tied into the music scene. He goes to concerts all the time. I'm kind of semi-retired from going to them myself. I'm still, I could see myself doing 3 to 4 concerts a year once I get my gumption back. But I haven't seen too many I missed seeing Robert Plant. I wanted to see Robert Plant. I came this close to see Robert Plant, and I also went to go see that thing that they are calling REO Speedwagon when it came to my town, but I backed out. It just wasn't that exciting to me. And the last two bands I saw was just pre-COVID with the um, well, two artists that I saw with Donovan and then of course Greta Van Fleet. So that's where I'm at on it. Let's see. Anything else here? Uh, Stephanie says that think William Burroughs used the term heavy metal in The Naked Lunch. Yes, which another one of you brought up. Good point. Good point. See, we have a plethora of rock and roll historians right here in the comments tonight. Rock and Robin Bird, Jeff Beck, right? And Jeff Beck was what the Jeff Beck group. I mean, I've already done videos where I compare Jeff Beck to Led Zeppelin. Some of the stuff, especially with the Jeff Beck group, not unlike Led Zeppelin at all. And as a matter of fact, I put in my albums, my Z's are Zeppelin. I cheat a little, right? And so Zeppelin there, well, right behind Zeppelin is all of the Zeppelin's, as I collect them, I haven't got them all yet, solo albums. And then the Yardbirds, and then Jeff Beck, and then Eric Clapton. Okay. So that's I break my own alphabetical rules when it comes to because all of that is so connected. And so if you've got Eric Clapton saying that Led Zeppelin to his ears was the first heavy metal band, and you've got Jimmy Page saying that he copied a lot of the solos and um, Eric Clapton's approach with the Yardbirds, and we've talked about how the Yardbirds themselves could be a proto heavy metal band, then I guess I'm a major heavy metal fan. Okay, if that was true. I don't see myself as a major heavy metal fan, but I wouldn't imagine there'd be too many heavy metal fans, uh, that are open to what came before, not collecting avidly albums by those same people I just mentioned, right? Being part of their collection, whether that's true heavy metal or not. I would imagine a whole lot of heavy metal fans collect Led Zeppelin, whether they think they're heavy metal or not, right? I just couldn't imagine anything else. I did want to say Dwayne was first in the comments tonight, and he said Steppenwolf introduced the term heavy metal in Born to Be Wild. And of course, that's been reiterated by many of you tonight. And let's see. The Beatles, Dwayne Chamberlain says, the Beatles created the genre. They created numerous genres of musicality. No bands have come close or ever will. Well, I agree with you there. If you're just going to talk about bands in general, this is where I, it's the Beatles. All right, the Beatles, the Beatles, the Beatles for me. That doesn't mean that I'm not a major Led Zeppelin fan. I am, and I'm a major fan of probably 30 to 50 bands that I just love most of what they did. Right, and so, but if you have to pick one out, the cream out of the crop, it's the Beatles, man. It was the Beatles that turned me on to their sound. They turned me on to wanting to learn to play guitar. They turned me on to want to be a musician. They turned me on uh, to to want to be a pop star. When I first started and all of that, they influenced the hell out of me. I learned to write songs by listening to a ton of Beatles songs and listening to the way their notes would go down, never ever copying any of their progressions. That wasn't my approach. I tried to find whatever chord sounded nice to me with my ears, and then, of course, how to put a melody line. Of course, I was influenced heavily by the Beatles. Matter of fact, I had to provide myself a jump and a half to graduate them to get to Led Zeppelin and to Black Sabbath, right? that was a bit of a jump. And you know what helped me with the jump? Revolution and Helter Skelter. All right. Uh, why don't we do it in the road kind of, approach? And their psychedelic stuff was wild beyond your wildest dreams, right? So yeah, the one band that could do it all, as far as I'm concerned, and not only the one band that could do it all, but the one band that could do it all very freaking well. Thank you. All right. So the Beatles will always be my number one band. They have affected my life. They affected me personally. They affected how and why and what I think in life. They were that big of an influence on me. And so, of course, the Beatles, number one, just absolutely every single time. But that does not cut down the amazing artists, one iota, that came after them around their time and everything else. The Rolling Stones are monsters, all right? Great freaking band, right? All right, you've got Yes out there. You've got bands like Chicago, completely different genres that carved out their own little niche and offered us something we weren't quite hearing with even yet the Beatles. Of course, these bands would come out and the Beatles go, yeah, well, let's write a horn section and show them how to really do it, right? Okay. Rocker Robin Bird says that's the beauty of music is when even though a band or artist has been around a long time, like brand it can be like brand new for a listener that just discovered their music. Yeah, and you know what? That's the way this music is to me. It hasn't lost it it's lost its initial impact and shock, but it hasn't lost its longevity with me whatsoever, right? I've heard these songs and albums enough that there's no more surprise. Ooh, even though I've got to tell you, occasionally I hear something. There are bands that put out albums that you just keep hearing new stuff. It's that thought provoking and everything, either through its lyrics or its orchestrational approach or its stylistic approach or anything else like that. Let's see. Dwayne Chamberlain echoes that thought. The Beatles, yes. Each album explored new genres, creating different waves of musicality, influencing every band since. They opened the door for other bands to walk through and create. Perfectly said. Couldn't have said it better. Matter of fact, I just spent about 5 minutes trying to say it better and I couldn't. Perfectly said. See, you guys cut to the chase. Without the Yardbirds, there is no Cream, no Jeff Beck Group, no Led Zeppelin. Therefore, Yardbirds invented metal. And I hear you, Doc. That was from Doc Insomnia. I hear you. They're on my list. I have what, six bands or six artists that could be considered what people have come to know as heavy metal, right? You know, other bands like I learned to like a couple of the earlier Metallica albums, but only once their Black album came out. Now they got a lot of crap for putting that album out, and to this day, it's my favorite album. The reason they got a lot of crap from older Metallica fans is they thought it was a sellout. And one of the reasons was its very melodic approach that, many of their older fans and they're trying to create pop metal or something like that. And I hear absolute genius on that album, and they discover their inner melody. There's nothing wrong with melody, folks. As a matter of fact, a lot of people, you got a lot of the punk bands coming out, very little melody, more shouting and all of that shit, right? And like I said, good for rock. That helped deconstruct rock, and something else came, or slightly different flavor came out for the 80s due to that influence, right? But lack of melody wasn't one of the things that turned me on at all, right? It's probably why I don't like rap. It's lack of melody. That ain't a song, boy. That's a poem. Now I know what a song is, and that ain't a song. That's a poem. You know, and that's the way I hear it.
and not a very good poem while we're talking about it, right? I mean, that's kind of what I hear when I hear rap. And the problem with hip hop is all of the pre-processed sound and the almost rap approach and how sweet it is. And we talked about this in the first stream and how the powers that be are trying to hypnotize us into thinking that uh, this is rock and roll, right? That you know, Lady Goo Goo Mimi Mama is somehow rock and roll. And so that's where we pay, we're talking about in the last stream, boutique prices uh, to see a lot of pre-processed and pre-recorded, a lot of lip syncing. And you're paying anywhere from $700, well, $600 for week two, I think, up to $1,400 a ticket for the VIP, the very important people, right? And when you think of rock bands that kind of buck that system, even to this day, I love 72 Seasons by Metallica. I think it's a great album. It's not their best, but it's certainly good. I love some of the progressions on it and the way the whole approach is slightly different. Once again, breaking some rules. I like that. Not sure I'm comfortable that they should stay in that direction, but for an album, yeah, I'm kind of cool with that. I like that, right? And they are famous for not using backing tracks. So they're a real rock band. Whether you like heavy metal or not, they're one of the few that get up there and actually play their instruments, and whatever comes out of their mouths is what you hear for the night. And I love that. So now, are they guilty of charging too much? I haven't really looked at the prices for their uh, concerts. And if I did, and I probably will before it's all over, I would probably be, shocked. I'm sure they're getting top dollar and everything. But out of the bands that are charging top dollar, let's say that I'm right there, they're offering the very best in value by not using pre-recorded tracks, by giving us an honest performance, by still giving us new music, by still trying to create a new sound from and a different approach from to album. They're at the top of their game, right? And they're not hindered and never have been by the confines of heavy metal, which it seems to me that many fans these days are so uh, wrapped up in, you know, the subgenre of the moment or the subgenre that I think is the superior form of music. That's not heavy metal. This isn't heavy metal. Yeah, heavy metal shall be this, all of the approaches and everything. And I think that, and then you get into subgenre. It seems like heavy metal has more subgenres within the subgenre of heavy metal than any other subgenre of rock and roll to me. Can anybody else think of another subgenre of rock? Prog, right? Blues, uh, it's heavy metal that has, all these definitions, titles, you know, ye shall go down this hallway and thou shall find the inner true meaning of heavy metal. If you like this, don't listen to them. That's enjoyment, you know. No, this is true heavy metal. Everybody's got their pick and everything. It's kind of sad. Let's see. Anybody else had anything to say? Uh, yep. Okay, good. Just rereading Dwayne's thing. Heavy metal was born in 1968. Many bands formed that year that followed the Beatles' influence, and thus the genre was born. And there is a whole lot to be said about that. I mean, you can talk about, influences reaching back to what, the 19th century, 18th century. but 17th, 17th century. Trying to get my classical artists at least tied into the right century. Well, there's a 300-year period. I'm sure Bach came from that period. I'm not thinking of his time exactly now, despite my education in music, theory. Uh, but where did it start? That might be true. That Dick Dale had a connection. That Link Ray, Rumble is a connection. That Bach is a connection, right? The down-home dirty blues, Delta blues, the raw barbed wire acoustic guitar played before even electrics might have a connection. There's always connections, right? The stuff doesn't just come into being. There's always things that kind of move, and then we have an explosion, uh, a new statement that had never quite manifested by earlier examples that led to this manifestation, right? So if that's true, then you kind of got to put the Beatles in there as a progenitor of heavy metal, right? Especially when you.
Got another super thing.
Yes, we certainly did. Joseph Blue, thank you, brother. Joseph's done this in the past. I can't tell you. And like I said, $2. Every $2 helps. I've said that until I'm blue in the face. You get enough $2 uh, super thanks going, and all of a sudden that'll turn into $20 in no time. And that kind of money keeps me going. And we've talked about that. Trying to stay off of some of the situations about the channel. I'll bring it up from time to time on the streams. But you guys are seriously keeping me afloat. Joseph Blue said in this super thanks, toot your own horn.
I give a thanks.
I give a thumbs up for Michael. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it so much. Here's a thing from Keith Bates. I don't think I've seen you before, brother. It's good to see you. Grand Funk Railroad was rocking heavy before Black Sabbath and others earlier. Yes. And everybody who's been a part of my channel for the last 3.5 years, I don't go very long without mentioning Grand Funk Railroad. I think they're one of the best power trios out there, multi-dimensional. Did they have a Jimmy Page for a guitarist? No. Did they have a John Bonham for a drummer? No. Did they had a John Paul Jones with Mel on bass? No. But they had on all of those instruments people who weren't too far away from them. And on top of that, it's how they combined those three instruments with, the guitar turning into a drum practically. I see that too. Richie Seeds, thank you. Brother, you are hitting it wild tonight. $5 super thanks. He says Geezer and Sabbath were considered hard rock. I saw that one too. But oh my God, Bill Hawkins. I'll get to you. This is wonderful. Do you see that, Kimberly?
Yes, I do.
Oh my goodness, her jaw just dropped, Bill. But I'll get to you. I want to give Richie his due here. Geese, I'm going to start all over, Richie.
No, you got another one from Bill.
Yes, I just saw that, babe.
Yeah.
Yes, let me finish here with Richie. We're going to get to you, Richie. I swear to God. Geezer said Black Sabbath were considered hard rock blues until Judas Priest took out the blues with. Am I reading that right? Until Judas Priest took out the blues with. Then Sabbath was considered the godfathers of metal. All right, so the Judas Priest and Black Sabbath connection there, Richie, right? And Judas Priest definitely considered metal, I would imagine, by most people. I consider him kind of a metal approach, although I have trouble with the term heavy metal. And it's because it kind of came out as a rewriting of history as my memory goes. And so I've always had trouble with the moniker, right? And then of course Bill Hawkins, my goodness, a $50 super thanks. just made.
He said he's pitching in for everyone.
Oh boy, thank you so. Uh, did you hear what Kimberly just said? He says, I'm pitching in for everyone." You certainly are,
He sure
man.
is.
That's amazing. I appreciate that so much, guys. But getting back to this idea of, so you have to kind of go to the near beginnings of it, and so uh, to me, like I explained, there are musical elements with Cream. Yeah, you've got Cream, you've got the Beatles, you have Led Zeppelin, of course, and then of course Black Sabbath and Deep Purple. Deep Purple still trying to find their identity at first, right? But by the time they got to, and they were excellent in earlier incarnations. Don't get me wrong, but by the time they got to Mark III, with Richie Blackmore on, guitar, and Ian Gillan on vocals, the usual suspects for Mark III. Uh, they arrived and were as heavy as anything else on the planet at the time. And one concert by, I would have been blessed to see any one of those three bands. And of course, I'm also going to include Uriah Heep in there, right? I think they're a vastly underrated band. And are they, but I don't hear them as heavy metal either. Although there are some very metal related things. I always call Uriah Heep my favorite fairy tale band. That's their subgenre. If Black Sabbath talked about, the problems with demons and Satan, usually pictured as the bad guy, Uriah Heep talked about demons and wizards, fairies, things like that, and very benign. They'd talk about sunrises, but you just knew that sunrise was in an alternative dimension of Earth in which fairies and ogres and demons and wizards existed in reality, right? There's a suspension of disbelief with Uriah Heep, right? And I love falling into a suspension of disbelief when I know, all right, there it is. It's a magic trick. Watch us take you to this dimension. I'm all in for it. I don't need to see the sleight of hand. Just do it in a way that's like palatable to me. And I'm there, brother. And Uriah Heep was always one of those bands. And by the way, Uriah Heep, I've really only done one video on him. I've mentioned him in many videos, but I've only done one dedicated video on him, and that's my fourth biggest video of all time. I think it's at about 153,000 now, working its way to 154. Years after I did it, it still grows. That video is what they call on YouTube an evergreen video. I've got about 12 to 15 of those kind of videos that have done extremely well on the channel and continue to do very well, month to month. There is still people finding the channel, watching those original videos. If you want to know what those videos are, just go to my channel page and look. You've got usually the first grouping up is my latest 6 videos, right? Then the next grouping is I've got it set up to show my popular videos. And those are the ones that get hundreds of thousands of views. And that's when you get a video like that and the channel grows explosively, right? And it's been a while since I put out a video of that. Oh, I did one earlier this year that did real well. As a matter of fact, it took Uriah Heep out of third place. It's now in fourth place. And I did a tribute video to those who passed in 2024. It was a devastating year. And that's at number 3. And it's what? It's 230,000 views, something like that. Right. So when you guys, like you're doing tonight, support this channel, back in the heyday when I got those kind of views, and it kind of took the community by storm. I think everybody was shocked that a guy like me even existed. That guy just don't shut his mouth, Mabel. Right. Uh, it wasn't at all unusual to be able to make monies that would be worth, well, at least like a part-time job, which is what I try to do with this channel, is to make enough where I'm earning what I would in a part-time job. I'm already retired, folks, right? And I'm supplementing my income as we go. I saw that, Richie C. No, it wasn't Richie C. Oh boy, I got to go way down. Jimbo gave us one last stream too.
Yes, he did.
Jimbo from New Zealand. You know what? I've said this, and I'm going to read your comment here in a minute, Jimbo. Um, my channel, my biggest audience is the United States. All right, and it's pretty evenly divided between East Coast, West Coast, and everywhere in between. Probably have a slight edge here on the West Coast because I'm a West Coast guy, and that's where I got my start, and so I have a base. But it's getting close to 50-50. Now, my second biggest market is Canada, and I thank Rachel's Ghost and a lot of the channels connected. We're talking about Patrick, before Zap Earl, Vance at Zap Earl, of course, Royce's channel and everything. I've gotten a lot of you know viewers from that ilk as well here on the channel as it's grown. But what these days, what's happened is there's been a cessation of views mysteriously overnight, and I sat on this without saying a damn thing, really for the last year. But it got to a point about 6 months ago that I was at a make or break kind of situation. All right. And I decided that what we need to do is regroup and look at my core audience. That's why one reason I do the live stream is to connect with you guys one on one. All right. Live in the moment, and get the thought and get a good viewership that way. And it's been pretty damn successful, to tell you the truth. I've not as far as getting new subscribers. Don't get me wrong there, because the tribal forum is really for those who are probably going to be viewers who have been viewers, and they're the ones that are going to see every one of my videos. And many of you in the comments tonight are those people. You're the ones that show up for all my videos. Oh, he's got a short out. Oh, I remember that video. It's 60 seconds of a 20-minute video, right? And I'll give you the highlight of a video.
Uh-oh, you just got another one
I
from
sure did.
Richie again.
Oh, Richie.
Oh my goodness.
Oh boy.
What a sweetheart.
You make me. I'm gonna have to get a calculator here, Richie. My goodness, thank you so much. Did I get to your last comment here? Well, let me get to Jimbo. I just want to make sure that I cover Jimbo's comment, and then I'll get back to you, Richie. I heard that Leslie West used amplifiers that Hendrix had fried because it gave his guitar a heavy distorted sound. If that story ain't true, Jimbo, it should be. How's that storm going, by the way, brother? You said in the last hour you're right in the middle of a tropical storm there in New Zealand. And I was also going to say, I was getting around to this, and then I'm going to get to Richie's wonderful super thanks here. Is that let me regroup my thoughts here when we're talking about where I was with this. Had it with Jumbo and everything and what's going on. Okay, good. We're talking about markets. Sorry about that. Had a fart. Richie's astounding me tonight. You know. So my second biggest market is Canada, of course. Now my third biggest market for a long time was England. The British Isles. That whole grouping. And with Germany trailing just a little bit behind them. But recently, it vying for third place has been an increase from a lot of you in Australia and New Zealand. I'm getting a pretty big base there, and I am so grateful for that, Jumbo. Brandon Oberheim, all right.
I appreciate. There's a cowboy sensibility to the Australian people that I just love. You know,
Uh-oh.
it's the cowboy in them that gets
Got
to the
another
cowboy in
one,
me.
hun.
I see that.
John Foster.
All right, John Foster, thank you so much. No comment here, just a wonderful super thanks. Thank you so much, John, which makes me have to get back. I'm spending most of my time reading these super thanks, but finally to Richie C., who superseded John just by seconds there, or a minute or two. He says, sad part is that metal is considered taboo. Oh, good point. Okay, I've got something to say on this. Eddie Trunk claims Jimmy Page refused to come on his TV show because it was called the Metal Show. Like Billy Joel said, hot funk, cool punk, even if it's old junk, it's still rock and roll to me. Yeah, Billy Joel in his heyday was one of the singer-songwriters I collected right alongside Paul McCartney, Stevie Wonder, Paul Simon, without Garfunkel, in the 70s there, man. So I thoroughly agree with that. And I'm glad you brought this up, Richie. When you say it's considered taboo, how about the way that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has treated it? You know, only the biggest of the big are there, and look who's being, uh, considered this year. I still say that Mariah Carey's going to wind up on that final list tonight at this year. It seems like they're bound and determined. And if that happens, boy, watch me cry foul from the rafters when that happens. And if it doesn't happen, thank God, maybe we had something to do with that, folks. Maybe somebody's watching this channel and getting a clue, that there's going to be feedback against such a decision. What is she, number 8 now in the current count with fans, which is ludicrous. All right, 7 or 8. I think she was 8. Uh, and the reports now are talking about the top 7, when in fact only the top 5 get further consideration. But these rags out there are saying the top 7 because I think Mariah Carey was in the top 8. See, she's just barely. Ooh, well, we had to take that in. I smell a rat, right? But how well has heavy metal been treated by them, by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? And because it's pretty heavy, barbed wired sound, right? And are they worried about if they did get that kind of recognition, could it take? Like I said, I'm not a major heavy metal fan. Oh, heavy metal came Marge in my life, was saved. Thank God the heavy metal came and saved my rock and roll soul. No, that's not me. But I like the best of it. And I like some of the bands that have been identified as heavy metal, whether I see them as true heavy metal or not. I recognize heavy metal works. Okay, so first of all, that's a done deal. All right, there is this sound that's called heavy metal. It kind of came out of a kind of rewriting of history, but once that was done, it didn't matter. It exists, right? And it is a viable art form. And it has been greatly ignored by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Because I'm going to tell you, heavy metal fans are some of the most rabid fans in the universe. That I can tell you. And if it all of a sudden started getting uh, top billing through, organizations like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, got fair radio play, whatever that means these days. I'm not so sure that has a lot to do with who people are listening to and everything. But whatever it is that promotes the current top, whatever it is, right? Uh, do they fear heavy metal? All right. It's got an attraction. It sounds dangerous. Every time signature known to man is there. Permission to talk about just about any freaking subject on the planet. What if metal got real political? You know,
Are we waiting for the first political metal band? No, I mean a real political metal band. Somebody who's writing lyrics akin to like a young Roger Waters in a metal band that's got something really what we want to hear. When we heard the first time we heard Dark Side of the Moon, or the first time we heard Animals, and what it had to say about the condition of the planet. Now, when I heard Animals, I thought it was some of the greatest music and some of the greatest thoughts ever written by Roger Waters. But when I hear Animals, I hear my translation of his lyrics, not what he's saying, what he meant 30 years later, 40 years later, 50 years later, right? I don't care what he says now, what those lyrics meant then. So I think that what we need, see, the rewriting of history. And no, uh, there's no greater fool than an old rewriter of history to
Hey,
me.
hon,
Yeah, babe.
Fart Knock Life says, Mr. Nolan, did you hear that Mariah Carey has a lost grunge album that
Oh
got
my.
shelved? Is that not the oddest thing you've ever heard? He says it
Well,
still may come out though. Yeah,
I hope you all heard Kimberly saying that. Um,
Mariah Carey.
yeah, about Mariah Carey has a lost grunge album that got shelved.
Yeah.
Is that not the oddest thing you ever heard? It may still come out sometime, though. Well, is it the oddest thing we've ever heard? What about Dolly Parton coming out with her album Rockstar? You know, uh, what do you do? Amazingly fast after her induction, after she turned it down. No, that's not me. I'm not a rock star. I'm just a country girl. Stop that now, right? And then later on, we hear, well, then they talked to me and they explained, and we've talked about, John Sykes and his re explaining how he explains to all these new artists how they're actually rockers, right? And they explained to me. So I guess I'll do it. Oops. And guess what? I'm going to do a song called Rock, an album called Rockstar. Not only am I going to do that, but I'm going to make it a double album. I'm going to produce it and record it faster than anybody has ever known to man. And I'm going to reduce it, and most people laughed at it. I don't know too many people who even like the damn thing. I don't, right? Just saying you're something don't make you such.
How about CCR?
Yeah, CCR's got some metal stuff, man. I hear some metal stuff, right? I hear some metal grooving with CCR. Why not?
Yeah,
Right?
totally.
Just like I hear with CCR, I hear psychedelia. Not for very long. They kind of became more what I call organic based after that. But Susie Q, psychedelic,
Yeah.
as psychedelic as any song I've ever heard, right? So, and some of their first two albums sounded on the edge of heavy metal. If you're going to include Cream, if you're going to include, um, the Yardbirds, if you're going to include the Jeff Beck Group, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Uriah Heep, why not them? Right? Very good point. Very good point. 19 Doc Ock, Doc Ock. I always want to call you Doc Ock. Can't tell I'm an old comic book fan. Doc Insomnia, 1969. Okay, War Across the USA. Another year for me and you. Another year with nothing to do. Iggy and the Stooges, 1969. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. TJR Classic Rock Corner. TJ says, Doug Clifford and Stu Cook walked out of the ceremony when Fogerty played with Springsteen instead of the original CCR guys. Yeah, well, I can understand why. They voted against him, stabbed him in the back.
TJR's Classic Rock Corner says Iron Maiden should be inducted.
I agree.
Indicted. I mean inducted.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that as well. Iron Maiden should be inducted. I've got a video with over 100 rock stars that I did like a year and a half, 2 years ago, right? That's another one of those,
Bill
people.
Hawkins says, by the way, Michael, I'm still angry with you for not including Alvin Lee in your top 25, but I love you anyways.
Hey, he he was one of the guys I brought up, man. He's one of my favorite guitar players. He was outvoted, brother. It was out of my hands. You know, all right. Here's my Pontius Pilot. It was out of my hands. I gave it to the power of the tribe, brother. I washed my hands of the whole thing, man. He is one of my, talk about bullet speed. 10 years after, oh my God, Alvin Lee. He looks so cool. In an era where there were hardly any blondes. You had Brian Jones. Oh, here we go with Michael Boswell. I saw that.
Boswell again.
Yeah, but and I'm gonna get to your thing here. Um, checked at the 2025 inductees, SMH. What's the SMH, brother? What am I not thinking of? Uh, Hall, something metal hall, maybe. Is that what it is? Clarify so that I can comment. But Michael, thank you. Michael has supported this channel. Oh man, you've been a mainstay, as several of you tonight have been. But Michael just comes out and bloom, and he's always there. I appreciate it just so much. Let me know more. Shake my head, he says. Am I disappointing you, Michael? I'm sorry. Good Lord. I maybe I'm having a brain fog. Maybe SMH. Am I messing something? Won't be the first time, you know. I think I'm too dense for this crowd, honey. What do you think?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's in tears back here, folks.
Yeah.
Jimbo, Clive had the galloping drum sound. Yeah, there you go. Jorge Pita washed his hands and sealed his fate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me, brother. No, I'm not much for washing hands. Washing her hands from something, but in that case, I actually gave it to the tribe on the top because he's of course talking about my video on the top. Was it 25? I think it was 25 guitarists of rock and roll. But that video is all based on what you guys voted for in a series of polls. It was all on you guys. That's your choice. So if you're wondering, if you're new to the channel, go and check that out. It's a fairly recent video in the last 3 months, right? And I think it's something like the top 25 uh, rock guitar god legends of all time, or something like that. And yeah, I'm not in it. I actually give you, some nice photos and some, things happening. It's entertaining. I think you'll like it. But all of that list and the ranking of that list, number 25 got the 25th most amount of votes, right? And number one got the most amount of votes from you guys. And it's not the list I would have come up with. Although I will say everybody on that list would be in my top 50 guitar players, right? But for the vast majority of that list, I'd say at least 75 to 80% of that list, they'd be in my top 25, but I might have even, rearranged them. All right. So, but that's what this whole channel's about, is to give you guys the voice. I handled this channel for a couple of years with my list of the rock, what I call the Mount Rock Olympus of rock and roll, right? And I put out my top 13 bands. It was my list. Then I gave it to you guys. The list now that is on, when you go to my channel page and you click more, right there, it'll give you a rundown of me and the top 13 bands in rock and roll, as well as the top 25 guitars. That wasn't me. That used to be me, but I gave it to you guys, right? And in about a year's time, well, actually, we're running close to maybe 9 months, 8 months time. I may run that series again, and you guys can reconfigure that list. And of course, when I do that, we might make that a yearly thing where you guys get to identify
the top guitarist and the top. There's no more room for drummers and bass players and stuff on that small page, right? You can only put out so much, guys. All right. Let's see. Benjamin Andrews says Amboy Dukes is Ted Nugent's first band, and in my opinion, one of the greatest unknown bands of the 60s. Yeah, great band. Absolutely great band. Mo Fugger. All right. Mo Fugger. Well, that's what it says, darling.
Michael.
I, I know.
Motherfucker.
Oh, she's blushing. You're blushing, baby.
I can't help it.
I don't know what to say.
Motherfucker.
Oh my God! And it's followed by a Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
Oh boy! So Mo Fugger, it's what it says, folks. I don't think Mick is underrated. I think he's highly regarded in the rock world. Uh, Jersey Devil, Randy Rhoads. Imagine if he hadn't died so young, what he could have accomplished. I agree with that. And I again am reassessing him as I'm reassessing Ozzy's entire solo output. I will be getting on vinyl his very best.
Uh-oh.
Richie is back.
Did it again. Richie did it again.
Oh, Richie.
Whoa.
Oh, I love you, brother. What do you got to say here? What's your thoughts on Angus? Saw him live several times, and he's on fire, smooth as butter. Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay. Well, what do you guys think about how he's playing? I think he's playing great. Myself, um, there's no problem with him. The vocals could be better, but they're more powerful than they've ever been, definitely. But Angus is sounding great. He's sounding great, and I was even saying, in my video that for the first time, his whole persona on stage is kind of a goof, right? But it was a goof right away. A grown man in a child's uniform, right? How ridiculous, you know? But what would even be more ludicrous than that is an old white haired man in a child, school uniform, right? And so he is actually morphed into what he should have been right away. If he had been smart, he would have put on a white wig in his early years and nobody would have noticed him aging, right? But he is the personification. Sounds good still, right? I don't hear a lack of guitar ability, to borrow a phrase I just made up, right? He's got a lot of guitar ability, right? He's still there, still moving along. He's not as slinky as he was. You can tell. He's got to be careful of his knees, as we all do these days, right?
Yeah.
I mean, knees go out, baby, but he's spry. And like I said, they're one band. If it wasn't for the high ticket prices, that's the problem that's going to stop me from seeing them. What do you guys think? No, I know what you guys think. I don't even know. See, that's an automatic response. So, what do you guys think? That's how I get off the hook. Kind of coming to a. So, what do you guys think? I know exactly what you think. The vast majority of you on my latest video, hundreds of you agree with me that uh, ACDC uh, is charging way too much money and that you're not going to go see them because of that. Hundreds of you have said that. So I know what you're thinking. Benjamin Andrews, Ozzy Osbourne best solo album is Diary of a Madman. I agree that's one of his very best. And his best with Black Sabbath is easily Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and I would concur with that as well. That's my favorite Black Sabbath album, but I got to tell you, I'm reassessing them all. And the heights that they achieved. First of all, you got your first two Black Sabbath albums. They're wonderful, progressive, second album handling stuff the first album didn't. Their playability was better on the second album, and they really bloomed on the second album. And that does not cut the first album down one freaking iota. It's a masterpiece. But when you get to Master of Reality and you get to Black Sabbath 4, There's a polish, and I'm all for polish if it doesn't override the truthfulness of the music. And there's plenty of truthfulness in the music. It's direct, it's right in your face, but it's much more polished. And then the glossiness, the additional glossiness, the glaze on the donut for Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is, and it is their best album cover, bar none, to me. And the whole album cover, you got to flip it over to really enjoy the whole experience. Because when you're talking about the album cover, you're really talking about two album covers. You've got the front cover and the back cover, and either one of them could have been the front cover, of course. Kind of the same thing with the Hey Jude album with the Beatles. The back cover could have easily been the front cover. A lot of fans like the back cover better, saying that should have been the Beatles front cover for Hey Jude. And but they're opposites of the same coin. I like the yin and yang approach to the album, the music and everything. That kicks it up in my head as a more well thought out album. Some of the best lyrics there. But then when you say that, then I can point to specifics from their third and fourth albums that rival anything really, if it comes down to it, on Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. But if I had to choose my favorite Black Sabbath album, it'd be Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Okay, plain and simple. Jim Sinister, my favorite Black Sabbath albums are Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Mob Rules, Born Again, and Dehumanizer. Born Again, really? We've talked about the Born Again quite a bit on Royce's show. That's one with Ian Gillan, isn't it? And that horrible cover. God, that'll send you into nightmares. I won't even show it to Kimberly. You know, Kimberly will occasionally go into nightmares. She goes into mini nightmares, and I have to hold her, and she goes back to sleep.
Stories now.
Yeah, I'm telling stories out of school.
Telling stories.
No, they're not. They're not sure. Come on, baby, admit it. Admit it.
Yeah.
And that's all. That cover too is disturbing. Okay, it's very disturbing. Uh, and Gillen was on it, and from I listened to it specifically when we were covering Black Sabbath the last time on Royce in the House, and what I heard was a very forced album. But I do know it has its fans, and Ian Gillan is one of my favorite lead singers. And I think that was his only stint with Sabbath, right? Like I said, for Sabbath for me is, you've got Ozzy, you've got Tony, you've got Geezer, and of course, on drums, I'm not going to think of his name now. Good Lord. What am I? It's like forgetting Paul McCartney's name for me. But it's the four original members, right? Plain and simple. And what they created to me isn't necessarily heavy metal, although looking backwards in hindsight, I can see where people come from when they identify it there. But to me, it's just great, kick ass, classic rock at its very best, And they put out a discography that most bands would give their left nut for. Okay. Plain and simple. It gets down to that. So, what I'm getting from most of you tonight is that definitely Black Sabbath is heavy metal or belongs in there. And I think there's not a lot of people. Bill Ward, thank you, Richie. See, I've got a plethora of experts at my fingertips. If I mess up, somebody's going to correct me. Couldn't think of Bill for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I'm getting older, folks. But nah, you agreed that I would go at, I'd be able to claim I was only 70, not the 98 that I really am.
Yeah.
And that Kimberly's actually my daughter, right?
I was going to say, you'd make that a, statutory rate.
Well, that's me, baby. Full of story and glory, right? What else am I? No, I don't.
Cheer?
Huh?
What do you think of Blue Cheer?
Blue Cheer, absolutely. I just picked up their album about 3 or 4 months ago. That
that one. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, excellent. I wish I had written them down as part of the six examples that I had. Perfect example. And it's been said by more people than me that that's really the first heavy metal album, the Blue Cheer album, right? Just picked that up on vinyl. I bought that album when I didn't know what to do with it. You know, it was like, wow, what do you do with it? I liked it, but I didn't know why I liked it, you know? Just hit me right between the eyes, you know? Let's see. 1970s. This is Jersey Devil. Definition of heavy metal is much different than the 80s sound post NWO, BHM, and Van Halen. Yeah. And with Van Halen coming out, that kind of reinvented, I guess they call them heavy metal. You know, it had the metallic sound and everything. But then we got into the mode playing. And not that we didn't see mode playing before Van Halen. His double tapping style and the modal playing was kind of phenomenal at the time. Hadn't quite heard that approach on guitar, so he's one of the big biggies, you know, as far as guitar gods go, and he's also the band is one of the biggies. Really fresh sounding, especially with David Lee Roth on the vocals. Less so with Sammy Hagar, although I've said, and I know old time viewers will go, not again. But although I've said Sammy Hagar's probably the better singer between the two, but for Van Halen, I think David Lee Roth was the one. So you've got that thing happening, and then you had the hair bands, right? And everything. As a matter of fact, that brought me up to what they questioned Eric Clapton about two other bands. Let's see, was that it? Uh, I played. Where was that? The Forerunner. I thought I had that. Which was the two bands that he was talking about? I know Rat was one, and Deathclaw. And he was saying, you know, it's just noise. That he couldn't stand the noise, the lack again of of melody, Metallica, of melody. So he didn't see anything really that kind of heavy metal just wasn't something that he liked, you know, and he never once even mentioned Black Sabbath, yet we know that he was aware of them, eventually even showing up and playing on one of you know, Ozzy's finest albums. As a matter of fact, Patient Number 9 is the album that's getting me to reassess Ozzy Osbourne as a solo artist. And it's been a while since I've been willing to reassess an artist. The last time that happened was here on the channel, and of course, I'm reassessing uh, King Crimson. All right, so I am doing that with Ozzy as well. Let's see who else is on. Three Stooges' first power trio: Mo Kazoo, Larry Violin, stand up, Curly stand up, bass disorder of the night. Uh, all right, folks. So here we go. We've got, good Lord, we've been going for almost 2 hours, which is quite a bit longer than we went on the first stream. I hope that you've enjoyed the stream. Now, if you see this stream later, all right, and I can see I've got 51 watching, which means I probably had more earlier, which surprises me. Again, I'm just finding my way on to you know, what night, what time is the best time, and this is surprising me because I've never started a 7 o'clock stream. I don't think. I think I started close. Well, I may have started one other 7 o'clock stream, and they do really well. Now, when I do these doubles, usually I'll get like 600 to 800 views per stream. But if you think about it, it's all done on the same night, and I'm usually getting my usual 1,200 or more. A few of my streams have gotten over 3,000 views, well over 2,000 views for a couple of them. And so the streams are doing well. I appreciate all of you guys' support. I'm sorry to see that. Well, I'm not sorry to see that Royce wasn't in on this one. I'm sure he'll clue in later and watch this once they've had their dinner and everything. But because I know this is a subject really close to his heart, but he's spending time with his great granddaughter and expecting a second great granddaughter in about 3 months' time. So, congratulations to Royce. A big thank you to every single one of you. Let's see. Uh, Jennifer, I just saw you. I hadn't seen you all night. Jennifer Andrews, Symptom of the Universe is my favorite song from Sabbath. All right. Very good. So I just saw that. It kind of flew out. That's halfway down. I almost missed you. You know, there's no way for me to get to every single one of your comments. All right. I do my best. Hey, Nicholas, how you doing, brother?
No, this Nick says he's got two great nephews visiting him.
Oh, well, it's old home folks here on, especially with the panel, right? Novus Nick is with us on Royce's channel, supporter of this channel as well. Love you, Novus. Uh, and you're right. And a happy Family Day to you, man. That's awesome. Family before politics. I said that in my last stream. Family is the soul of us, and I do see that, babe. I just wanted to finish up what's going on with Nick here. And to me, it is your blood family, your closest friends that come first in life, right? And then the community you tie yourself to. You folks are my community. All right. I'll make it plain and simple here. You folks are my community. You are in my prayers, each and every one of you. And I celebrate your celebrations. I'm saddened by your tragedies. And you have been likewise. You've known that Kimberly and I've gone through tough times. I had a surgery to deal with. I'm gonna have so many I'm not gonna be able to catch up, huh?
Oh boy.
But when I was going through the surgery, I had a hernia surgery. I was doing the channel from my bed, right? Showed up on Royce in my bed of all places. You know, that's how dedicated I am to you guys and your well wishes. And of course, it's coming up on 2 years since Kimberly had a mild heart attack, but she was in the hospital for the longest time. And you guys helped save my life. You know, Kimberly is the other half of me. All right. The two of us, we somehow make one. And to if she's hurting, I'm hurting twice as bad. All right. And you guys really made it bearable during that time. Jimbo, once again, thank you again, Jimbo, from again New Zealand. New Zealand.
He said he's sitting out a storm with us. Yeah.
Thank you for a good topic, Michael. Sitting out the storm with you, right? So, you know, I've romanticized that storm so much, Jimbo, that I kind of hear a low, and like you're in this hut, you know, with all the conveniences that you need to stream, and a gust of wind coming in, rain, but not sheets of rain, you know, a lightning bolt or two off in the distance. Am I close? God, see, that's the way you see things, man. You know, it's how you choose to look at things. No, man, I lost my house and my children and everything. You know, I hope you're not going through anything like that. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Nicholas gives us a super thanks. And of course, Nicholas is a friend of mine as well. So thank you so much, Nick. Nicholas and I are, I guess, we're one of two of a core of four that have shown up on Royce, although that core has grown quite a bit over on his stream. We're getting a much larger panel. But usually there's four of us that show up there. Of course, me, Novus Nick here, and again, thank you, Nick, as well as Chris Elliott, who has been in the chat and is over here when he can be as well. And of course, Royce himself. It's his show. Royce in the House. And yeah, I encourage every one of you to go over there and subscribe to him and click that notification bell. Because if you do that, see, we do a whole thing over there. When I do my Sunday streams, I get off, I take about 20 minutes break, and then I'm back on Royce's show. So if you like what you're hearing over here, you might like what you're seeing there. All right. And so I strongly encourage you all to support Royce's channel as well. I want to thank each and every one of you for supporting this channel tonight. This has been a marathon night for me. I think I have actually streamed a little longer than this, but not by much. This is a big one. And I'll tell you, I put my all into researching for these. This one was a little more relaxed than my first one, right? There I had to go back and forth, and sometimes you have to dance with a subject because you don't want to get tied down or bogged down into personal belief systems, but still, as a basic human being, criticize something that we in general might not appreciate. And that was a very difficult stream. And you guys were very supportive of that. And once again, you actually paid for this live stream. I said if I got 3 super thanks, I'd stream again in an hour. This is my answer for that. And you turned around and gave me more super thanks in this stream than you did in the first. I couldn't do this without you folks. I'm serious as a heart attack about that. All right. Everything out of my mouth is true. I don't have time to lie to you. I don't have time to be fake. I don't have the energy to present myself as anything than freaking Michael Noland, who's a guy, a musician, a rock fan, a guy who's had to work a 9 to 5 job, a 9 to 9 job sometimes, in the field that I did to support my family. And you guys are just the same. You've done it all yourself. We've all had to work for a living. We've all got here. We all have a wonderful story, and it's going to be on this channel where our stories will come. We're already getting to know each other a bit here. I know a bit about Nicholas. He owns a restaurant. He runs a restaurant. He has a 93, I think he said, 93-year-old. I had a 93-year-old mother. She just passed away just before Christmas. That's hit us hard. Well, he's got his 93-year-old mother-in-law still working in the restaurant. A lot of the people I'm talking to come from a good core of people, hard working people, right? My kind of people, you know? who just believe in a couple of things. Don't do harm to others. Don't take what's not yours, right? Don't lie to those you love and consider friends. And when you fuck up, apologize, pick yourself up, dust the dust off your knees, and put that foot right back in front of the other, right? And that's how we get through this. And the fact that we all freaking love classic rock. Okay. So I appreciate y'all. I had a terrific time tonight, and I can't wait to see you on my next live stream, which is scheduled to be Sunday at 5 o'clock. All right. Just before Royce in the House, and he streams at 6:30. All right. And that's PST. That's Pacific Standard Time, folks. All right. I live out here on the West Coast. So does Royce. Royce is in pretty much the Southern California, the northern tip of Southern California, San Luis Obispo area, and I'm in the Big Valley. I'm in the Central Valley of the West Coast here in California. So that's when we do it. Local time, 5 o'clock for me, 6:30 for Royce, and you've all been a super audience. I can't wait to hear some of your comments. If you didn't catch all the stream, rewatch it, and then give me some of your comments or any comments that you want to last. Because when this stream cuts down, all this activity that we see here on the side kind of goes away. So it's a good opportunity for you to get in there and say, well, I said it on the stream, but I'll say it again. Right? All right, folks.
I'm Michael Noland. This has been Tribal Forum number 21. We had a two for you tonight. Worked our asses off and had a wonderful time. You know what? We got 77 thumbs up. That's wonderful. That's about where we were at the end of the last stream. Another 23 thumbs up, and this will get yet a secondary bump. We already hit the 50. Wow, it just punched up to 78 just like that. 45 of you watching after almost 4 hours. That is amazing. And it's the 45 that stuck around this long. You know, you're the core. But anybody showing up on these streams are the core that I am directing at. All right. I want a community that represents itself as fair and even handed, but we ain't got blinders on, folks. And we got to call them as we see them. And I need your help in doing that. All right. Once again, Michael Nolan, Tribal Forum, number 21. And I'm also from the bottom line. The bottom line, as I see it, but it's what you guys say in the comments that really count. I'm just the instigator, folks. All right, folks. I'll see you on my next stream on Sunday. I hope to see you there. Good night.